Welcome back to LittleLee and Rose. My name is Summer Noel, and today we are going to clean up the edges of a cup. Now, I've already done a tutorial on this, on the basics of just how to do it. Now I'm going to show you a little something a little trickier that involves a little more tools. I am wearing my chemical mask. You can see my microphone is hooked on here, and I'm going to be talking a little louder. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay, and I'm going to sound like Darth Vader. Now, I have my acetone ready to go, because this was actually a cup that had some issues, major issues, but one of my moderators wants it on my Facebook group, so I'm going to finish it out for her. The only problem it really had was the stickers lifted up. I do a gajillion of these cups, and for some reason, out of the blue, this one's stickers lifted up, so all these bees and flowers are very lumpy, and I don't strip cups, guys. This is a gorgeous cup. I hate stripping cups, because it makes me so sad, because I put so much work into these. And this will be a gorgeous cup. It's just going to have some 3D effect to it. But I have this one because there's some goop on the inside, and I want to show you guys how to do that. But now this is the one I really want to turn to and show you guys how I do this. Because this is a wine glass. I put this on a football, but inevitably, I can wrap it in silicone, but inevitably, the easiest thing to do is put it on and just clean up the edge. So you can see the football is all stuck to this edge. So we are going to use a special tool to clean up this edge. So if you ever have an edge that has a lot of gunk on it like this, or a lot of epoxy built up, this tool is going to be perfect for you guys. Now, if you are going to do any sanding at all ever on your metal cup or on your epoxy, please at least wear a particle mask. You don't want to be breathing in those little bits of metal from when you sand. Even though they look tiny, they're still little bits of metal. You can still breathe them in, guys. So wear your particle mask. And this epoxy, when you sand it, it's not safe for you to breathe that in, guys. The dust is really bad for you. So wear your particle mask. Now, I am wearing my chemical mask because we're going to use a special tool that heats up the epoxy. And when you heat up epoxy, you create fumes, and I don't want to breathe those fumes in. I'm very, very particular. I have babies. I want to live a long time, and I don't want to be super unhealthy while they grow up. So we're going to start out with the big tool first, because I know that's what everyone's really waiting for. So this is called a hot knife. Now, I've always told you in the past, you can heat up an X-Acto knife and do the same thing. So if you don't want to invest in one of these hot knives, they're not expensive. I'm going to put a link. I found a really inexpensive one online, guys. I'm going to put a link online for you. But I always tell you, you can heat up an X-Acto knife and do the same thing. So you can see what this does is it's really, really hot. And it'll do the exact same thing that I say to heat up an X-Acto knife with, to do this, but you don't have all the work of heating the X-Acto knife, and it cuts through this like butter. No pushing, no forcing, it just heats up that epoxy, and you keep your seal perfect. You don't mess with your seal at all this way. There's no way, there's no lifting of the seal or anything from forcing this off with a regular X-Acto knife. And you guys can see just how completely smooth and clean that's going through. Now I'm going to zoom you in just a little bit. I keep it on a wet towel, you guys. I'm going to zoom you in. Hopefully you can get a better view of what's happening here. I've got a little bit left to cut, so I want to bring you in nice and close so you can see exactly what's happening. I'm just taking this hot knife and running it across the top, and it's just slicing straight through any of that epoxy and leaving my lip very clean and beautiful. And it doesn't mess with the bond of the epoxy to the cup at all. So now I'm just going to go inside and clean up the inside a little bit. You can just see how clean that cleans through it. This is all epoxy, guys, that's built up, and I'm just cutting through it with this super duper hot knife. Now don't ever, ever, ever touch the end of the knife, you guys. It is indeed extremely hot. It is what it says. It's a hot knife. Don't test it. It is hot. There's no reason to ever touch the knife, especially if it's plugged in. If it's not plugged in, it's cooled completely down for a couple hours, then you can touch the knife and change the blade if you need to, but don't touch it while it's hot, guys. That is no joke. Okay, so now I think I've pretty much got all the epoxy. What's going to be left is just paint and football. So I'm just going to, honestly, this is just fun, so I'm just going to keep doing it because it's so fun to do. So we're going to put that off. You can wipe it on your wet towel to clean it off. Keep it on that wet towel. Okay, so now you've got this beautiful edge. It's nice and finished. And we are going to now take a little bit of acetone. Oops, look at there. See? I left it sitting on a little piece of epoxy. Don't do that. Don't do what I do, guys. Okay, so we are going to use our acetone now to clean the inside, because you can see this was a hydro dip cup. And you can see inside there's some paint in there. There's also some paint along this edge. I don't even know why I'm bothering to protect my manicure. My manicure is gone to heck in a handbasket. So now this is just pure acetone, guys. I never use acetone on the outside of the cup because it will degrade your epoxy. Whether you think it does or not, it does. That's science. Epoxy and acetone don't mix. That's why we use acetone to strip cups, because it just cuts through the epoxy. Now, even if you're doing it in a small scale, you're still degrading the outside of that epoxy. It might look fine, but essentially you should not, just on a moralistic ground, you should not be touching the outside with any sort of acetone ever and then selling that cup, because you have in fact, whether you think you have or not, you have degraded that epoxy. So you shouldn't sell that cup. That's my 2 cents, guys. It's not an opinion. It is a fact. You do degrade epoxy with acetone. Okay. So I'm just cleaning up. We got a little pump here. Now these nitrile gloves are not, I put it on to protect my manicure, guys, but the acetone will go right through the nitrile glove. There's a little bit of glitter still stuck on the inside, and I'm guessing it's because it's probably stuck to epoxy. Yep, there was a little ball of epoxy right there, so we're just going to get that with the hot knife. I could put enough acetone on this napkin to have wiped that away, but hot knife is a lot easier. All right, so now we have a nice clean, you see that clean, smooth edge, guys? And it was very, very easy. I probably could have done that even faster. I was just kind of going a little slow for the camera to make sure you guys were seeing what I was doing. Now, what I'm actually going to probably do is sand this edge just a little bit, put it on my holder, and do a hang method over the top. That way I just get a nice, this edge is pretty clean, but it's a little rough. I mean, it's actually a little, not sharp, I don't want to say, but it's a little intense on this edge because this cut it and left it so flat that it's made a little bit of a lip. So I'm just going to smooth that lip down just a little bit and then do a hang method coat over the top of this one. So that cup is essentially finished. So let's move on to our Bumblebee cup. So now the Bumblebee cup is really just paint and epoxy on the inside. I'm going to take the acetone on my coffee filter. I use coffee filters, guys, because it doesn't have fibers. It's not going to leave behind any residue, any little fluffy balls or anything. Even though the cup is towards the end. I'm not done with this cup. I just had it sitting there, and I thought this would be a good example because there was so much stuff built up on the inside of this cup to show you. Now, you've probably seen me already do this in one of my other tutorials, but I figured that one other cup was going to be a pretty short little blurb, so I thought I would reiterate going through this with you guys. So now, I'm going to take my hot knife, and I'm just going to go along the top. This one doesn't have too much, but it is there. There's actually more epoxy in the cup than on the edge. You can see there's a few little spots where there's some. All right, so that was easy. That one didn't have too much up on the edge, but inside here, there's quite a bit. So we're just going to go through and cut all the little bits out that are inside. And it just cuts right through it like butter. There's a big blob of it. And you see it just came right off. Another little blob. I'm not pushing it all, you guys. I'm literally just like resting the edge of the blade against it, and it's just cutting itself through. There's a blob right there. It literally just comes off. It's so nice. This thing is a game changer, guys. Somebody in my craft group mentioned that they use it for woodworking. And I was like, wait a minute, that thing is amazing. I sent her a button immediately and ran and got one of these. And I've been playing with it now for a while. I wanted to make sure I knew how to handle it really well before I even showed you guys. So I figured it all out. And now I am showing it off, guys, because it is really cool. God, I don't need to turn that upside down. And then I'm just going to go through with acetone and re-clean that inside edge up. I'm not going to go too crazy because this cup is not done. I'm going to finish this cup out for my moderator. But it was just here to be a good example. There's another little spot of epoxy that we missed. Comes right off. And rub it out. There's my coffee filter. All right, guys, that is it for this tutorial. That was a simple, sweet one, easy one. I didn't want to make this too long. It's one take. I don't even have to edit this video. I'm so excited. I can just launch it for you guys. So you're going to see a video on the same day that I make it. That's amazing. Usually it takes me weeks to get these out, but because this one's short and sweet, you guys will see it in a minute. Bye, guys.